Yo, 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 what's that word? This is the 3012 Inning Podcast. We about to knock it out the park. I'm your host, Broderick. We got a lot to get into today, so let's step right into it. So, for episode 4, we're going to switch up the format a little bit. We're going to talk about an actual concept, and that's going to be the poor Indiana Pacers. Now, for this episode, I'm going to focus on 3 segments of their history where, in my personal opinion, they ran into 3 top 6, 7 players of all time in their prime, and they missed an awesome chance on getting over a hump and going to the NBA Finals and even winning the championship in one instance. So, the first one I want to talk about today is, of course, running to Michael Jordan. Now, in the 1998 Eastern Conference Finals, we got to remember this is the last dance Chicago Bulls. Now, bear with me today. We're going to go over a lot of stats. I did a lot of research for you guys. So, Michael Jordan, of course, was the league MVP that year. He put up averages of 28 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Scottie Pippen, he averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block per game. And of course, Dennis Rodman put up 15 rebounds, with 5 of them being offensive. And of course, he provided relentless energy on the defensive end. And of course, like I mentioned before, crashing the board. And of course, in practice, making sure the team was well conditioned. As we've seen on The Last Dance, Michael always talked about how Dennis was a pain in the butt to be around sometimes. Then for the Indiana Pacers, we had Reggie Miller putting up 20 points a game, shooting 42% from 3. Rick Smits, a 7'4", 250-pound center, putting up 17 points, 7 rebounds, and a block per game. And a steady veteran, Mark Jackson, putting up 8 points. But he had a 9-2 assist to turnover ratio in that entire series. Again, 9-2, very Chris Paul X. So he was a great veteran presence in that series. The series was extremely close. The home team won every game. Started out 2-0 Chicago, 2-2 in Indiana. Chicago won Game 5, Indiana Game 6. And of course, we had Game 7 that Chicago ultimately won. For me, the highlight of this series was the 18-29 second quarter victory by the Chicago Bulls. This really busted the game open, and it was during this time period. You got to remember it was harder to score, and during this time period, Reggie Miller, he didn't have a very efficient game in Game 7, so it made it very tough for the other ones to get involved with Reggie struggling, and when they faced that deficit, it was just impossible to climb out of, especially with the defensive players that Chicago had, with 3 first-team all-defensive players and Michael, Scottie, and Dennis at the time, especially with the role players coming off the bench with a commitment to winning. It was just very hard for Indiana this year. And unfortunately, I think this was the best opportunity for a team to knock off Michael besides when he came back and Shaq and Penny beat him. I think this was the best team that Michael faced, and they had the best chance of actually beating him in a playoff series during the time period where the Bulls three-peated 2 times in a row in the 90s. So the next series we're going to talk about is the 2000 NBA Finals. To me, this series was defined by Shaq. To me, this was prime Shaq, 7'1", 325, all-muscle Shaq. Just for reference sake, some stats for Shaq in this series. In the finals, 38 points, 17 rebounds, and 3 blocks a game. He was completely dominant. This was pre-prime Kobe, but Kobe, this is 3rd-year Kobe, still a great player at the time. He was putting up 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal and a block per game. I think this was the year that Kobe finally made the first team all-defense. He was playing elite defense, guarding Jalen Rose and Mark Jackson on the perimeter. Reggie Miller at times. Glenn Rice was also big in this series. Glenn Rice was putting up 63% from 3. He actually shot 12 of 19 from 3 in this series. So he was very impressive. And the third best player in this series for the Pacers for me was actually, I'm sorry, the third best player for the Pacers for me, I'll start from three, was Austin Crochet. He was putting up a smooth 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 block a game off the bench for Rick Smith. He really came in, provided a lot of energy, spaced the floor, and defensively, I feel like he gave Shaq a little bit of trouble. Like him and Sam Perkins helped to space the floor. Shaq didn't really want to come and contest all the way out there to the mid-range, to the deep mid-range and the three-point line. I thought that stood out a lot. But of course, Reggie Miller was putting up 24 points, 4 assists, and shot 98% from the free throw line. Jalen Rose, a young Jalen Rose, was putting up 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. So this was a solid team all around. They did have Chris Mullin coming off the bench. Dale Davis was still on this team. I don't think Antonio Davis was on this team, but he was on that first team with Michael Jordan in 1998. They provided great energy. But this is overall a great defensive team for me. Average margin of victory was a little bit wider than the Michael Jordan series, about 9 points a game. The highlight of this series to me, and I actually watched it yesterday, was Kobe in Game 4. I don't know if y'all remember. Like I said, Kobe was 21. In Game 2, Kobe missed most of the second half when he suffered a very high ankle sprain. He missed the second half of Game 2, missed the entirety of Game 3. Kobe came back in Game 4, right? Played 47 of 53 minutes, scored 28 total points. But him and Shaq were in foul trouble throughout this game. They both had 4 in the third quarter of this game. Shaq ended up fouling out in the fourth quarter. This game ended up going to OT, where Kobe dropped 6 points with 2 jumpers, a reverse layup to win the game with about 5 seconds left. The Lakers ended up winning 120 to 118, and they ended up going 3-1 without Shaq. To me, this was the moment that Kobe was like, yo, I can be the best player on this team, and I can be the best player in the league. Now, I'm sure he was probably maybe already thinking that, but for me, this was Kobe's superstar ascension moment. After this, for me, Shaq was still the best player in the league at the time, and by the league. He was obviously the best player on his team, but I can see where Kobe got the confidence to say, man, I can be the 1A for this team. I put in the work. I could be the 1A. I've proven on the final stage. It was his first championship, him and Shaq's first championship. As we know, they would go on the three-peat. Finally, and that was a 6-game series. Finally, we're going to talk about the 2013 NBA Finals. It's actually significant because a little tidbit is Reggie Miller was actually the broadcast. So he's involved in all 3 major moments of this Indiana triumvirate thing that we're talking about right now. Of course, Reggie Miller is extremely important, probably the best player in franchise history to the Indiana Pacers. So that was a nice little tidbit for me. But this series, for me, was defined by running up against prime LeBron James and the Heatles. Obviously, this team was awesome in the regular season. They had a 27-game win streak, stormed through the playoffs until they met the Indiana Pacers in the 2013 Eastern Conference Finals. Now, for this year, obviously LeBron was the MVP. LeBron actually came in second place in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He was putting up, let me see here. LeBron was putting up 27.7 rebounds, 6 assists a game, with a block and a steal per game. Dwayne Wade was putting up 19 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Chris Bosh had 16 points, 7 rebounds, and putting up assists a game. But we know Chris Bosh was mainly out there for defensive purposes and to space the floor. Also a great team of veterans with Ray Allen, Shane Battier, Norris Cole, Mario Chalmers. So this is a stacked team, as we know the Heatles were during that time. The series also had the star ascension of PG-13, a.k.a. Paul George, who put up 22 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. This was prime Lance Stevenson. This is when Lance was bringing the ball up the floor, was a playmaker, when he felt most comfortable in his role in the NBA. Lance was putting up 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. Played good in awkward defense on LeBron, as we all remember him blowing in LeBron's ear in this game. Who knows? I mean, maybe it did have an effect. Who knows? I don't know. It did go 7 games, so you never know. He also played stiff defense on Dwayne Wade. Paul George played great defense on the perimeter. Roy Hibbert was also a standout in this series. This was Roy Hibbert when he was using verticality at his peak. Roy Hibbert was a top 5 defensive player of the year candidate at the time. He was putting up 7 points, 2 blocks a game. And we also got to remember the size of Roy Hibbert. At this time, Roy Hibbert was 7'2", 270 pounds. It's kind of weird to think about a guy this large and this effective and in his prime at this time was out the league a few seasons after due to the advent of small ball and the ascension of the Warriors and things of that nature. But during this time, again, he was a top 5 defensive player in the game. So obviously he brought a lot of value to the series. The average margin of victory was a double digits, around 13 points for either game, either way. This series was such a great series because it really could have went in either way in the sense of every game the other team won. Miami won the first game, then Indiana, and back and forth like that until Game 7, which obviously the Miami Heat took as they went on to win the 2013 championship that year. Now, the highlight for me of this series was Paul George's dunk over Birdman. This situation happened in the third quarter. Pivotal. I think Indiana was up 4. It was 75 to 71 Indiana. Paul George being guarded on the perimeter by LeBron. He pump fakes. LeBron bites on it, cheats up a little bit. Paul George blows past LeBron and dunks on the Birdman. It was really crazy. I remember watching this live, and for me, that was the first time throughout this entire season that I questioned, like, yo, could the Heat actually lose? Like, could this be like what happened the year before? Could this be like 2012 where they get kicked out early in the playoffs and me as a super LeBron fan, we're facing the ultimate embarrassment? Like, that was the first time where I had this deep thought about it in that very moment. Now, of course, I ain't have to worry about that because like LeBron said, it was about damn time for them to win. You know, overall, you kind of feel a little bit bad for the Pacers when you think about it. They always seem to have good, solid teams. In my opinion, the thing that's holding back, unfortunately, is probably the market. They have a beautiful arena with the field house, a great front office, a great coaching staff. I mean, in the 2000 finals, they had Larry Bird as the coach in his hometown state, coaching for his home state team. Like, they had Frank Vogel in 2013. I mean, there really wasn't much thing holding them back besides having that superstar talent. Unfortunately, they always were facing. They never had the best player in the series and probably didn't have the second best player in the series in every one of these series. In the first series, I wouldn't put Reggie Miller over Scottie Pippen or Michael Jordan, obviously. Second series, I mean, Shaq and Kobe. Third series, LeBron and Wade. You know, I mean, Bosh could have been better than Wade in this 2013 series, but even so, I wouldn't put Paul George over either one of them. Although that's slightly debatable because Paul George really was ascending during this series. Then after this, you know, he became a different animal in the playoffs for the different teams he's played for. But I want to thank you guys for listening. This was fun doing a new format, a new setting. I got more of these coming up for you guys. I hope you like it. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate it. This is going to help the algorithm get it out to more people. Help with the support. Please go visit hattiescollection.com. I got a lot of new merch coming from you guys. Again, I appreciate the support. Like, comment, subscribe. I thank you. Y'all have a good one.